Alright guys, this is part 2 of my COVID experience, and obviously I'm in a completely different location and a different day and everything. This is just for the intro. I'm waiting to get unloaded right now, and they got a forklift broke down, so just sitting here waiting. But anyway, don't forget to check out part 1 before you watch this one, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, comment, and I appreciate every subscriber I get. Helps out this channel. So anyway, without further ado, here we go. Probably the 6th day in was when it got really bad, and I was still sleeping a ton, not eating. The strep throat had gotten a little better, but I started to think things in my head, and they would just repeat themselves over and over and over. And I used to do that when I was in my teens, but it wasn't that, like whenever I was a teenager and did that, I would just do something else to preoccupy myself, and the thoughts would kind of go away. But this was like, you're stuck with this thought, because I had no desire to do anything. My emotions were completely gone. There was no laughter. There was no smiling. I would just stare at stuff. And I'll give you an example of something that might get stuck in your head. Say if you just use the bathroom and you're leaving the bathroom and you gotta shut the door. And in your mind, you think, oh, I need to shut that door. Well, that's what something like that might get stuck in my head, and it just keeps repeating itself. Shut the door, 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 and it just goes on and on and on, and it gets louder, and it's pretty maddening. And I was trying to talk to Rebecca to try to like make that go away, but it would not. It did nothing. So I kind of gave up on that, and I just kind of spaced out and stared at the wall with these annoying things going on in my head. The worst it got was when I kind of lost my, how do you put this? My perspective on time and space, I guess. Like I was sitting in the living room with Rebecca. I was sitting on the couch. She was sitting in the lazy boy. I think she was watching TV. I wasn't. I was staring at the TV, but I didn't know what was going on because there's stuff going on in my head. But to me, my brain knew that she's right there. She's about 3 feet from me. But my feelings, my thoughts and emotions make it seem like she's a mile away. So it's like your emotions directly contrast what your eyes are telling you. And it's like, one of the two is lying to you. Oh, another good way to describe it would be like if you look at your hand and your hand looks tiny, it would be like looking at your hand on the other side of a pair of binoculars. Normally you look in a pair of binoculars and it enlarges everything, but you flip them around and it makes everything look tiny. It'd be like looking at your hand through that side of the binoculars. Not with your eyes though, with your emotions. It's a weird thing. It's very weird. But yeah, we were sitting there on the couch. She's feeling like she's a mile away. Voices are going on in my head. I thought this would be a good time to come in and say I don't actually hear voices in my head. Like, I'm not hearing things that aren't there and talking to imaginary people. That's not what's happening. These are just thoughts that get stuck in my mind, almost as if you had a song stuck in your head, but it's just maddening. And it really is it was just torture for me. And really my mind, in a sense, was acting directly against me. The best way to describe it is if I told you
don't think of the color red. Immediately you think of the color red. Well, my mind was kind of working against me in that way, where it was like, let's see how bad we can make this, and I'm sitting there, my conscience is like, what are you doing? No, let's not see how bad we can make this. But that's just what happens, and it's uncontrollable.
And all of a sudden I start getting a new thing that's repeating itself in my head, which is my name, Adam. And it just keeps saying Adam, 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 Adam. And as time went on, it got faster and it got louder. It was like Adam, 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 and then it was screaming like Adam, 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 like an annoying alarm clock. And I'm just sitting there like just trembling, squeezing the couch, squeezing my leg, just like, please go away, and it's like, what do you do? What do you do? And at that point I said to Rebecca, do you think I need to go to the hospital? And she said, why do you think you need to go to the hospital? And I said something to her, I won't say on here, but it was the minute I said it, she was like, oh yeah, we need to go to the hospital, for sure. It was something that I would never say or do, but in that circumstance, oh yeah, for sure. You could probably figure it out. So we went to the hospital, and I'm, just a complete wreck on the way there. We check in, and of course it took them a while to get to us, because it looks like nothing's wrong with me. I'm not like, it's not like I'm, in danger or anything, or it's not like they need to get to me immediately. So we sit out in the waiting room for a while, and then they check us in, they take my weight, they do my blood pressure. A nurse comes in, and then finally we talk to a doctor. It's like, what's going on? And we were trying our best to tell them, and Rebecca's there helping me out, because I can't hardly talk. I can't put together sentences. And she's sitting there saying, if you knew him before, you would be like, wow, what happened? I'm telling them, maybe I had a stroke. And they're saying, well, you don't have the typical symptoms of a stroke. So I'm like, okay, well, what is it? And they do a brain scan on me. And after that, the brain scan came back okay, no issues. And I could tell at that point that they didn't know what to do. They honestly had no clue. I should also note, because I forgot to say it in the video, that they did do a COVID test on me. They did the swab where they stick it up in your nose, and it came back negative. And I had pain in my nose for probably 2 to 3 weeks after that, because she stuck it probably all the way up to my eyeball. It hurt so bad, and she left it in there for like 20 seconds. It felt almost like at that point it was intentional. That was so unnecessary. I did speak with a psychiatrist, and you have two options when you talk with them. Either tell them you're okay and go home, or tell them that you're not okay, and it has to be something pretty bad, really, really bad. And they'll check you into like a psychiatric ward, and then you get to have that on your medical record, meaning you're probably never going to be hired anywhere. Everywhere you go, you're going to have to try to explain that to people, which is impossible. They're all going to think you're crazy, and I didn't want that on my record. So I was like, I guess I'm okay, I don't know. And she was like, okay then, well, you're free to go. That was it. Went back home and still felt like straight garbage. Like the only thing the hospital did for me wasn't actually one of the services the hospital provided. It was just occupying myself, keeping somewhat busy. That's kind of what helped out. So that was kind of therapeutic. Kind of like fixing something without fixing it the normal way. And I'm not saying that the hospital doesn't know what they're doing. They're just doing the standard protocol for
somebody like me that would come in with the symptoms I had. And as far as the mental stuff, I mean, what do you do about that? A lot of the things that are coming out of COVID are new, and continually we're having new things arise from COVID. So I know it's a learning experience, and I don't expect hospitals to be fully equipped to handle all that stuff. I do feel like they did their best, and at the end of the day, there was just nothing that could be done about it.
But we go back home, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night, because we were at the hospital for, I think, like 6 hours. I wanted to take a shower, a really hot shower.
Well, and of course my audio had to mess up right here. So anyway, yeah, I step in the shower, and I decided at this point, there's nothing left. We've tried everything, and the only thing I have left now is to pray. And I ain't gonna lie, at this point in my life, I hadn't prayed in a long, long time. Had just a lot of issues with, just a lot of issues with that. I won't go into any details. That's for another day. That's a whole can of worms I don't want to open up. But anyway, I just decided at this point, this is all I have left, and let's throw a Hail Mary here. So I prayed in the shower and stepped out. I think I was in there for like an hour. Stepped out probably around, I don't know, midnight, maybe 12:30.
Went to sleep after that. So I went to bed probably midnight, and went to sleep very easily, like usual. And I ended up waking up at about 3 o'clock a.m. to a weird crackling in my face. I'll show you where it was at. About here. There was a weird crackling that woke me up, and it sounded like this. It sounded like it felt like something relieving itself, something freeing up. And the pressure on my head, as that was happening, the pressure in my head was subsiding, and it just pretty much went away. Just like that. I mean, I'm talking a matter of 10 seconds. The pressure was gone. And immediately, I was me again. And I wasn't 100% sure that I was actually awake. I thought maybe this is a dream. But I was pretty sure it was real, because even my dreams weren't that cognitive during, hey, that's a big word. Even my dreams weren't that cognitive during COVID. My brain just wasn't functioning right. So I was pretty sure. But I had to sit up in the bed for a second just to make sure, and I laughed. That was my test, to laugh, just to see if I could laugh. And man, laugh I did. And so I had to wake up Rebecca after that, and I woke her up and I was like, I'm back. And of course, instantly she's like, what? And so, she's got to make sure. And we talked for a second. My weird dark humor has returned, and she's like, you're back. What? What just happened? And I'm like, I don't know. But, ta-da! And the ta-da, if you know, is from Arrested Development, from Job the magician, when he says he's going to go to prison, and he's going to magically just break out of prison or something, and he ends up going to prison. Then he ends up getting stabbed, and he's like in the hospital, which, hey, he's back out of prison, and his family's around him, and he's like, ta-da! That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So yeah, that was what I sounded like, ta-da! Like this. Hey, this could be an elaborate magic trick. Hey, for my next trick, I will magically just disappear from reality for a week and have stroke-like symptoms, and then I will reappear. I will reemerge as myself. But I was back, and my appetite was immediately there. I had to go and eat, and I couldn't really eat a whole lot because my stomach, I guess, had shrank from just not eating. You know, if you don't eat, your stomach will shrink. So I had the desire, I had the appetite, but I just couldn't eat a whole lot. But as time progressed, my stomach stretched out a little more, and I was able to eat like normal again. Yeah, she was like so relieved because, you know, holy crap, that was bumpy. Because she was worried, you know, it's like, what do you do? What do you do if your husband's stuck like this for the rest of his life? It's like, I didn't want her to be like my caretaker, you know, that's just a depressing thought. And for her to have to be, you know, the breadwinner, the one that's, she would be the only one working. I don't think there's anything I would be able to do. That experience also kind of, it freed up a lot of things that were, how do I put this? There were some things that were very hard for me to address and once I had COVID, it was like I had a reset, a complete mental reset, a complete physical reset. My digestive system was reset. So I think it was, I don't know, a month or so after that, maybe a month and a half, I decided to try and quit Dr. Pepper because I was drinking like 5 Dr. Peppers a day, and it was making my blood pressure high. It was way too much sugar. And normally the only time I'd ever quit Dr. Pepper was just because of circumstantial situations, like say if I was just away from Dr. Pepper, you know, just coincidental. And then once I had access again to Dr. Pepper, it was like, oh hey, I haven't drank any Dr. Pepper for 2 months, but now that I have access to it, yeah, I'm drinking it again, you know. But now I had complete access to it, but for some reason I was just able to quit like nothing. I dropped it, and there was no struggle at all. And after that, probably a month after that, I was like, well, I should keep the ball rolling on this. So I quit caffeine, because caffeine was making me all jacked up to where I like couldn't sleep. It seemed like whenever I was tired, it was like artificial, you know, like it wasn't real. And once I quit caffeine, it was like everything seemed more pure. Whenever I was tired, it was like a more pure form of being tired. Whenever I went to sleep, I felt, you know, actually tired, and I could just go right to sleep. And so it's just weird. It's like I kind of look at things a little differently now, and it's weird. It's a weird thing to say. Probably Rebecca would disagree, but if I could go back in time and I had the option to either get COVID or not get COVID, I would get COVID, just because of what it gave me. And it also kind of gave me my relationship with God back. So that's very important. And, you know, I had just abandoned that for so long. So it's kind of ironic, as much as a brain fog, if you will, that I had during COVID existed, I also had sort of a brain fog before COVID. Definitely not nearly as bad as COVID, but it was there. And it seemed like after I got over COVID and was well again, that the fog was no longer there. It was almost like a complete reset on my mind, on my spirituality, on some physical things, my digestive system, and the benefits from it just far outnumbered the bad side effects, because it does seem like it takes longer for me to get better now. Like if I get a cold, it seems like I'm sick for like 2 weeks. Used to I would be sick for like maybe 3 or 4 days.
Maybe over time my immunity will build itself back up and I'll be fine again, but for now it seems like it just takes a minute. But as far as my mind goes, that's the biggest improvement I saw. And it's a very hard thing to describe to people, if I'm even allowed the time to try to describe it, because my thoughts kind of come out slow and I like to be precise in what I'm saying. And oftentimes, if you're pausing in between sentences, you're just going to get interrupted and you're not going to be able to even finish out that thought. So it kind of makes me to where I'm hesitant to even tell the story to people, because it's so much to remember and it's just a lot, and I want to get it right. So here it is. And also, this definitely bears mentioning. I said earlier that I had a brain fog before I had COVID. Well, I didn't even realize that until after COVID. See, it was something that was going on and just completely unaware of it. Kind of a weird thing. And I know I'm rambling here, I'm just thinking out loud. But when I say like brain fog from COVID, that's very different than like a fog I was feeling before. COVID, like the fog I would get from COVID was just, just like you're not there. Mentally, you're just not there. As far as what I'm referring to before COVID was more of just that my brain, that my mind, had too much, there was too much that was occupying it. I had too much on my mind all the time, and I felt like COVID kind of relieved all of that and gave me a fresh start. It's just nice now to be able to space out sometimes and just think about absolutely nothing. And I haven't been able to do that in so long. It's almost, I guess you could call it a form of meditation. And it's just nice to have absolutely nothing on your mind sometimes and have the ability to do that, to almost just leave your existence sometimes. And it's nice that I have that ability now. And if you're wondering, that first video you just saw was a bus that me and my wife used to live in. We lived in it for 2 years. And then I believe the second video is me playing with Solo, who the channel is named after. And then the third one was my very last day of the company I used to work for. I'm not going to name them. Green trucks, green and white trucks. And then the very last video, what was it? I'm about to look. The very last video was right before Solo passed. That was just probably a couple months before, and I took him out to go get a shower that day, and he loved cold weather. I think it was like 20 degrees that day. So I kind of ran out of video there at the end, so just thought I would add that stuff in there to keep your eyes occupied rather than just some still shots. So anyway, and I can't, without mentioning, I have to mention my wife, obviously, for a COVID video. I mean, I can't imagine going through that by myself. That would have been absolute hell. And that was like just a really sad and depressing thought for me going through COVID was, man, some people go through this by themselves. That must be horrible. I'm just glad that I had her by my side, and she was helpful as she always is, loving, caring, everything I love about her, and wouldn't trade it for the world. So I guess that's all this video. Gonna get me teared up here, jeez. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys, and comment And what else? What else do I normally say at the end of the videos? I usually make a promise, don't I? Hey, subscribe to my channel, and what can I promise you? I'm not going to promise that you don't get COVID. That's just going to jinx you. I don't know. I honestly can't think of anything, guys. Yeah. I don't know. Just catch me on the next one, though. Next one will be a truck-related video, guys. So, we'll see you.